Hi, it's Lori. Thanks for joining me on one of my favorite topics, the HR Department of One. I'm excited to jump in with you today, so let's just do it. I was working with a local SHRM chapter 2 or 3 years ago, and they helped me come up with the title of my second book, my third book actually, which is Taking Your Seat at the Table. And I really believe that the subtitle of that book so speaks to how HR departments of one can really get to the, organize their day. And that is by being a strategic executive who is action-oriented and technologically savvy. So these 4 things, the acronym of SEAT, S-E-A-T, is what I'm going to take you through the next little bit. Being a strategic executive who's action-oriented and technologically savvy. So let's start with strategic. And what does that really mean? I want you to focus on strategy, not only for the organization, but for yourself. Because only by being strategic can we truly set our day in motion in a way that makes sense. So think about what is the right door for you. As an HR department of one, you have so many choices. Not everybody is going to want to be this strategic executive. But I do believe the acronym still works for the HR person. Maybe a lot of you have work in your organizations part-time because you have other responsibilities outside of work. And you're kind of happy being in that administrative functional role in your organization. I'm going to suggest to you that that is perfectly fine. You just need to own that, make it clear to people this is your choice, and that you're really happy with your role. Others of you want to be that strategic leader and really want that next part in the organization. This is going to speak to all of you. So think about what is your corporate strategy for HR, and then what is your personal strategy? Because unless your personal plan aligns with your corporate plan, you could have a real issue. If your organization wants HR to be very strategic, and that's not the door you choose to go through, there's a misalignment. That is what my first book, Fire HR Now, was all about. We don't have time now to talk about Fire HR Now and why on earth I would come up with a title like that. But it really is about aligning HR and the business. And if you're not aligned, make a professional, honest decision to separate. But I'm going to assume for the purposes of this webinar that you are aligned and you're excited with your role and you're excited with your organization. You want to walk a mile in your CEO's shoes. Understand that your vision for HR may not be the same vision as the rest of the organization. So as you talk about where you are going and where your organization is going, make sure that you understand where your CEO wants you to go. With that idea, we're going to move into being an executive. What does it really mean to be an executive in business? You aren't going to get invited to join them at the leadership table. You might, actually, but typically, we have to let people know that we want to be part of leadership. So if the door you are walking through is a strategic one, make sure that you are sharing with people why and how you should be at the leadership table. If you don't want to be there every weekly management meeting, I encourage you to really think about maybe once a quarter, maybe once a month, have a reason to go to that meeting and report to those people about an important HR initiative that you want to be involved in. As an executive, the reason we want that is because it gives us authority. It gives you a way to make HR a viable and important function in your organization. In order to get that level of authority, you really need to have 3 soft skills that go throughout your entire organization. The first is influence. And influence is what we see all the time in the new emotional intelligence literature. Influence is all about convincing others and engaging your audience to really know that when you say, no, this person is eligible for FMLA, and we need to make sure we honor their responsibilities under the law, that they just take your word for it. They don't run and call the corporate attorney every time you make a statement. And that really speaks to credibility. Credibility is the proof that you know what you're talking about, which is part of why I am so passionate about HR people getting certified. Credibility says to the organization, you know what you're talking about. Many people in the HR field chose different paths right out of high school and didn't finish their college degree, maybe didn't even start their college degree, or maybe have a college degree in another field of study. Spending 6 or 8 weeks, I know it sounds awful, but spending a few weeks studying and getting that certification says to the organization that you are credible. What you are talking about is meaningful, accurate, and on point. Reach is the idea of working throughout the entire organization. And having these 3 pieces of the puzzle will give you the authority that you need to move forward. So let's talk about the third part of our acronym, and that is being action-oriented. What I hear from HR departments of one is that I don't have enough time in the day, and I get it. I've been there. But you can't say you don't have enough time in the day. My very favorite quote is by H. Jackson Brown Jr., and he says, "You have exactly the same number of hours in a day that were given to Helen Keller, Michelangelo, Mother Teresa, Thomas Jefferson, and Albert Einstein. And look at what they managed to accomplish." What I know from HR departments of one is that the reason we feel we don't have enough time in the day is because we let other people control what we're doing throughout the day. Just because an employee shows up at your door doesn't mean that they're entitled to your time, attention, and energy at that very moment. So let's talk about a 4-step process that I think through of how we can work smarter and not harder. The first is that we really have to understand what our actions are all about. As you do that, I want you to think about prioritizing those actions. And finally, we want to publicize. One of the biggest issues HR departments of one have is that employees would much prefer to keep you down in that administrative area. They would love to have a personal assistant doing everything they need. So see my little guy with his whiteboard? A whiteboard to me is the most important piece of office equipment in your office. I think it is critical that you have a whiteboard that shows your initiatives and strategic goals for the year, maybe for the quarter, it depends on how your business runs. Not your to-do list, but the things, the bigger projects and initiatives that you need to be working on. This is my whiteboard for the year. And what I need to be doing to make my business successful. I also have a to-do list that sits right on my desk that I need to do every day. But the reason I'm passionate about a whiteboard is because this is a very nonverbal way of making it clear to everyone who walks in your office that you are not here to get them their check stub. You are not here to make a change to their address in payroll. These are the things that you are hired for. You may do those other things as part of your customer service initiatives, but it is not what you were brought into the business to do. And only if we take ownership for publicizing these things can we expect the rest of the business to know and understand what we are here to work on. So let's go to the fourth part of our acronym, being technologically savvy. Tech savvy is essential these days. It doesn't mean that you have to know how to program or you have to know how to code, but you have got to be able to use technology to move your HR function forward. Report writing is something that I always look to when I go in to do an HR assessment in an organization. Are you sending out reports just because you've always sent them out? What are people doing with these reports? If they are not providing data that allow people to make decisions and move forward, stop sending them. When I refer to the Smith report, what does that mean? It means a report that John Smith created 20 years ago, so everybody gets it. Everybody gets the Smith report every week after payroll, but doesn't mean that your people are using it to make decisions. If the reports are not helping, stop sending them. What I say to people all the time, if you have something like the Smith report, just don't send it one week. See if anyone even asks about it. I know a lot of these reports are probably automated from your payroll service and you really don't care. But remember that they are clogging up the inbox of your managers and people that are getting them, and they may ignore the next thing you send them that you really want them to pay attention to. Social media is something that we have got to address. This is a great quote by the CEO of Starbucks. Social media is a bullet train, and that train is not coming home. It is going fast forward where we need to be. So think about how you can use social media to your advantage. Do you have a great holiday party? And are you putting pictures on Instagram with your company logo and saying, this is a great place to work, don't you want to be here? Are you posting job openings on LinkedIn and Facebook? Are you using these areas of social media to help you drive your HR department forward and stay relevant in the new day? We have to be aware that smartphones and apps are being used by everybody. Anybody have an idea of what age group is the highest increase of using a smartphone? Think about that one moment, and then I'm going to tell you. The biggest increase in smartphone usage are the people aged 55 to 64. They have increased 37% just since 2013. So everybody is on smartphones these days. And if you do not have, for instance, your career site mobile optimized, you are not going to get the applicants that you want for the new year. So really think about how this is impacting you. So as we end this webinar, one of the things people have asked me to share through the years are my favorite tips as an HR department of one. I've broken those down into 3 different categories. One is, how are you going to get HR information on an ongoing basis? The first are HR databases. Many of your benefit vendors will provide that for free. So go out and ask them. I love the SHRM updates. I really believe that for $185 a year, SHRM is one of the best investments you can make. But my number one tip for HR information is to set up Outlook reminders that you need to keep for compliance purposes. For instance, February 1st, post my OSHA 300A log. April 30th, take down my OSHA 300A log. If you put that in Outlook with an annual reminder, you don't have to think about it anymore. They'll just come up to you. And I have, hopefully you already have it, a great calendar of all those dates. So if you do not have my perpetual HR calendar, just go to my website, register for my blog, and you'll get it. If you can't find it, just send me an email. I'll get it off to you. You've got to get help. As an HR department of one, we cannot always be doing things ourselves. We've got to use interns. I believe in it so much that it's on this slide twice. I just realized that, but that's okay. We talked about vendors already. HR Hacks is my book. You can also find that on my website. I actually have one right here. HR Hacks looks like this, that gives you all the tools and templates you need to run your HR department of one. So find other ways that you can get what you need done without reinventing the wheel. And finally, stay relevant. You have got to stay on top of what is going on today. My 2 favorite on this list, the first is summary.com. What is summary.com? Many of us remember from high school good old Cliff Notes. Summary.com is a subscription service. I think it's $99 a year. I don't sell it or anything, but I've been a member for probably 30 years. And what I get every month in my email is 3 6-page condensed versions of the top business books going on in business right now. So I can stay up to speed on marketing, on IT, on networking, on HR, all sorts of different things without having to read all these books. So check that out. I think it's fabulous. And then I love the Harvard Business Review. I have to admit, 15 years ago, I probably thought that it was way over my head. It is the most approachable, easy to read magazine you will ever find. And again, it's really, really affordable. So these are some ways that you can stay on top of what's going on in business without having to go get an MBA or take a finance class. Those are a couple of my favorite ideas. So as we wrap up this webinar, I really want you to give thought to whether or not, as an HR department of one, you know the business. That is one of the things that is essential, that you are aligning your HR function with your business and you are adding value all the time. And ultimately, remember that very last competency your CEO wants from you. They do want you responsible for reducing risk. With these 4 things, I think you can go forward and know that by being a strategic executive who's action-oriented and technologically savvy, your HR department can run far more seamlessly as you go forward. I appreciate you listening to this webinar. If you are SHRM or HRCI certified, please stay on just 1 more second and we're going to provide you those critical numbers you need to get your 1 hour of general education credit. Please take down my email address. Most of you already have it. I look forward to staying connected with you. I realized I just made a mistake. This program is worth business credit, not general. So if you are SPHR certified, you get general credit for SHRM, and if you're PHR, it counts. Those of you who are SPHR will get 1 hour of business credit for HRCI. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to staying connected with you in the new year. Please keep connected, listen to the blog, and I hope we've got other webinars that are going to be of interest to you. Thanks. Bye-bye.